You back to Germiston. This is in Ekurhuleni, where officials were inspecting or are inspecting a steel company to ensure compliance with labour regulations, part of the ongoing campaign that started a few weeks ago. Several managers and employees this hour have now been arrested for various violations, and Nqobile Madlala is there and will tell us more. Nqobile, it's so interesting. We crossed to you about half an hour ago or so, and already some arrests have been made. Tell us why they've been made and just give us a sense as well of this broader program of enforcement.
Well, yes, Iman, interesting indeed. In fact, I can confirm that there's about 9 or 10 arrests now. There's one gentleman that was arrested a little earlier on with the documentation still have to be verified, and he was later taken out because they said the company does have some certain documents. They've now checked, and as a result, they've decided that that one gentleman will also be part of those now arrested. They've gone inside some of the companies that side, and they've brought about 5 people that were inside that company, making it an arrest of about 10 people now that is currently in place. So we are told that in this area, you've got roughly about 7 companies. They're all steel companies, and of course they work within the same vicinity. We know that from what we have heard from the labor departments that there was a tip-off with regards to trade call. However, when they came to the vicinity, they found out that there were more than one companies, and of course they were then called out, and you heard that very loud noise where they were calling people out of their shifts to come into this area so that they could then be verified. From what we know from Home Affairs, with those that are currently in that Home Affairs van, what we know is that their documentation now will then have to be verified. This is, of course, until they have been verified, only can they then say that they have a right perhaps to come back and work in this company. And whilst that is taking place, we know that there's also an induction that's currently taking place. This is where some of the officials within the the current departments that are currently being inducted, so that they are able to come into this company and be able to then check for whatever is necessary. What we understand, Iman, is that this is a multidisciplinary operation where you find SAPS, where you find the Gauteng traffic wardens, as you can see there. They're also working, where you find as well as Home Affairs. And I want to show you what Home Affairs will do. So what you see there is some of the documentation that they will have to go through. And some of these documentation then is what they will look at. However, this is not the only documentation, Iman, that they will look at. They will also look at how the company operates. And this is when the officials, when they are done with that induction, then they'll be able to go into the company and look into the books of the different companies in terms of, are they following the standards operation, the basic standards of operating and employing people within South Africa. Now they'll look at in terms of the hours that the workers have to work, in terms of the shifts that the workers have to work, and also you will remember previously that they have spoken about these operations, explaining that for you to then hire someone who's out, who's not from the country, you have to have some documentation for them so that they are legally documented. But on top of that, you need to prove that the skills that they have are the skills that you cannot get in South Africa. So those are some of the questions that are going to be asked from some of the employers. But what you see here now, then, are employees from various parts of this company. And so what's going to happen is they're going to stay here. Whilst they're here inside, you've got the traffic wardens, you've got the police officers that are inside these areas that are checking for anyone who might be hiding or might not have come up or might not have heard when they were called. They will then bring whoever is inside to also come and make sure that they have checked on. As you can see there, these are some of the things that they're giving us as well as we are going to enter the company, and this is part of the induction and making sure that it's safe to be within the company. So we've spoken to the companies and we've asked them if they would be keen to speak to media, Iman. They've made it clear that at this point, no, they won't be speaking to us. But what they have confirmed to us is that there are over 400 people that are employed in these various companies.
Nqobile, a really interesting unfolding of events where you are, and you talked about this being the result of a multidisciplinary operation. This particular raid, the product of a tip-off that was given two officials, and I just wanted to get a sense of what people are experiencing. I don't know whether you've been able to speak to any of the employees there. This could be, I mean, this is nerve-wracking, right? Whether or not you're legal.
Well, true to that, Iman. In fact, some of them have been asking us what is going on. So from the time when we came in, everyone was surprised. They were not sure what's happening. And whilst we're at that, Iman, I just want to show you what's taking place behind. So more people are getting arrested. Of course, we'll get more updates in terms of those numbers, but you can bet already that more has gone up. But again, going to that confusion, there's a lot of confusion in terms of what's going on. There are a lot of questions that are being asked, and a lot of them just asking what's going on, what is it that we did. But as you can see there, Home Affairs ensuring that they give them the details, the necessary details that they may need to ensure that they are, in fact, adhering to the law. And at the same time, what we had seen, which was very interesting, Iman, is that we saw some of the people that were here to deliver some of the goods within this area. And because of that, what they found themselves is they found themselves in the operation. And as a result, they then started asking if they're supposed to actually continue with their work, or if they're supposed to show their documentation. They were then checked by the Department of Home Affairs to ensure that they are, in fact, documented correctly. They were then able to continue delivering whatever they were delivering, and they could continue with the work that they were doing. So a lot of questions, yes, people are confused, but at the same time, they're being given those details by the departments, the various departments that are here, and at the same time ensuring that every single one of them goes through the process as needed, as everybody else. And you can see already some of the employers have been on the phones non-stop. You can see that the companies are also communicating with potentially their lawyers or whoever might be of assistance at this point. But Iman, right in front of you, this is now the third van that is in front of you that has more people. So we are going to get more details. You can already bet that more than 10 people have now been arrested. And this is, of course, is concerning the verification of their documentation. A lady you see there is one of the people that is verifying those documentation to ensure that it is indeed legal in the country.
Nqobile, just, really interesting watching developments unfold where you are, those police vehicles you see with Nqobile there now being filled with people who ostensibly, at least at the initial stages, need to go and give an account of themselves. And that really is my next question, Nqobile, is where are they then being taken to? As you say, the companies themselves, and there seems to be a collection of companies, steel companies that operate in that location, not just one. So they're seeking legal advice. This is a raid, a surprise raid, as we know. Any indication of what happens to those who've now been taken in, where they're going, and legal representation, and ensuring as well that, everything is done by the book?
Well, Iman, just struggling a little bit to hear you, but I am going to try and explain. So what you can see here is that Home Affairs needs to ensure that there is a documentation in terms of whomever is working in the department or in the area or in these various companies. There are certain legal documents that they need to verify. Part of them is work permits. You will remember when we were in the hospitality industry, there was a major issue around the fact that some of the workers were working with just passports. Now, this is becoming a major issue, mainly because such things require that you have a work permit. So these are some of the things that they will look at. Then, from here, Iman, what happens is the department will then drive them off, where they will then be verified. But what we understand is that anyone who's then illegal in the country will then go to the police station, because of course this is a crime, which will later probably go into the deportation of them. But if they're not being deported, then they're able to then speak to the company themselves, because company needs to be held liable. So some of the things that will occur is that it's not just the employees that will be subjected to being arrested, but it's the employer as well, because the employer must be liable. So part of what we have seen in the past is that some of the employees are taken, but the employer is then taken to court, where they are then penalized by paying a certain amount to the department for not adhering to the standards, to the basic standards of employment within the country. That's what we know so far.
Yeah, and it really does look like a massive deployment effort and enforcement effort. We can see just behind you, Nqobile, more police vehicles pulling in. As you say, last time you checked, it was around 10 or a dozen people that had now been taken into custody. We see more police vehicles there. Maybe just show us a more picture of the scene in its totality, Nqobile.
Well, Iman, at this point, of course, you can see more people being dragged in. At this point, I can tell you that in one van, what we have seen here is that they at least got, let's just count how many people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's about 5 people in each van. So as we look for the total in terms of how many people will be arrested, we can confirm that at least each van has just roughly about 5 people, and already there's about 4 of them. So roughly we're looking at about 20 people that have already been arrested. This is, of course, to ensure that they verify their documentation and that they ensure that they're in the country and they're working accordingly, and that they have things like work permit, and that they are, of course, of those rare skills that you cannot find in the country. This is, of course, a steel company that might have specific skills that one must learn and understand, and that is the question of whether or not these skills are of rare in this country. And of course, with that continuation of arrest that you can see there, Iman, we know that right inside there's already the police officers that are continuing to check if there's anyone that's inside. You'll remember that this operation today has more police enforcement, and the reason why they've upped their police enforcement, according to the Labour Department, they've already made it clear that because there are so many entrances, and we've seen in the past in the hospitality industry where some people would decide to run, they want to make sure that there is no one who's running. They want to make sure that the employers and the employees are accountable for any action that they may have done in this case.
Nqobile, Madlala, thank you very much. The latest there from a plant in Ekurhuleni. This is in Germiston, where those joint operations and inspections are taking place.